You've been drinking your water, friends? It's funny, I think that's probably, when we talk about embracing the absurd, one of the silliest and yet most effective things that I started doing in the beginning was actually, it wasn't so much drinking more water, it was interacting with and like say watching YouTube, watching other people who regularly drink water, and even on their videos. And because we have mirror neurons and fun things like that, so we tend to emulate. But it's funny because I've been going through old messages, like looking for stuff, mostly to prove that I am a good mom. I've been a good mom. I'm not a perfect person. That was part of my big energy, was like, no, I'm turning into a pirate too, and I don't want to be a pirate. Like, but makes me think about a conversation that my DM and I often had, which was, "You are who you hang out with." That was the way I said it. He'd always say, my mom would always say, "Show me who your friends are, and I'll show you who you are." I think I said that in the right energy for how he'd say it. But it does, like, and in it is also a part of, like, what do you read? Do you read fiction, nonfiction? Do you read about high dramas and apocalyptic dystopians, or do you read romance novels or um, historical accounts? Like, do you look for good things, like the people that you watch on TV and on YouTube and things like that? Do you take the time to engage yourself in activities that are uplifting? You know? And it's funny too because, like, there's so many different things I can look back on. It's like I was doing the math, and it's like my math was a little bit off. It wasn't as far off as I thought, but it was like I was I was looking at 28 months of separation, whatever way you want to look at it, and it's actually 38 months because we've always had discrepancies on the timing, like when did what start and who did what start, and it's like I can go back and look at our conversations and say yes, definitely this moment right here. And it's funny because, like, some of the stuff is like, while I'm looking for stuff to say, like, I did this and I did that and I grew here and I saw this and I recognized that, and all the times that I asked for help, but I go through different conversations too where, like, both of us had growing to do. I think the thing that really gets me most is, like, I mean, I've always been good to the kids, but I too was getting into that piratey place of, like, oh, it's such a burden because they're not doing what the adults want them to do, and so then they're bad. And it's like, no, no, I'm never gonna be that person again. I remember there's a conversation I just went through that was like, I had put it on Facebook even afterwards. I was so mad. Like, there was the stupidest fight with my mom and my aunt, to where, like, Joey had asked, and he was 8, and he had called me and asked me if he could come and wait in the driveway for me to pick him up to take him to the park. Yeah, simple. There shouldn't be any reason for that not to happen. I was typically door dashing or working on personal healing and stuff like that nearby. And so I could come and do that. And, like, I managed pretty much all of the kids' needs other than clothing and food, because my family hoarded those things. And so even if I wanted to manage it, like, we even brought a fridge to the house when me and my DM and everybody, when we all moved in there, to try to save money and work on our issues so we could get out of there. And that fridge quickly got filled up with, other shit. There was no space for us to be able to do anything. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to worry about the things I cannot control. I'm gonna just let them do it. I'm not gonna be responsible for their emotions of, like, constantly overdoing it, over making food, overdoing this. I'm gonna manage the rest of the stuff. Anyways, Joey had asked me very simply if he could come out way out front. And yeah, sure, there's no problem with that. And when I got there, instead, I mean, he was out there, but he was crying. He ran back to the car and he told me that Grandma and Donna were yelling at him and he didn't understand why, and some sort of fight about him being in the driveway. And I was like, okay, I was like, well, let's, you know what, let me come here, give me a hug, sit with me, you know, you're okay, you're safe. Why don't you wait here in the car and I will go in and talk to them? And I went in to figure out what was going on. And as far as I could tell, they were having some other sort of fight, and possibly with dad. I don't really know. But I got in there, and it was this big thing about how Joey was an awful, rotten kid because they told him to come in from the driveway. And I was like, he told you what I told him to say, that mom gave him permission, that I gave him permission to wait out there. And they were like, well, well, but what if you run him over? I'm going, it's the middle of daylight. It's like afternoon right now. Even like, and even at night, there I have headlights. Why would I run into him? He's an 8-year-old. He's very tall. He doesn't blend in with the scenery. Why would I run into him? And then they just started getting mad and asking me how they could punish him whenever they felt upset about things. I was like, you can't. Like, look at you. You're having trouble controlling yourself in this moment and not even recognizing that you are creating a situation that did not need to happen. And then they started getting on me about shit when I was a kid. And I was like, you know what? I will never raise my children like you raised me. Never. And then they started screaming at me more, and I started shaking, just trying not to be scared and trying not to be too angry, and finally just left the space and went out. I remember like I had a bowl of spaghetti in a plastic cup, and I like threw it at the RV because it was just like, this is so messed up. And like, I calmed down and I took Joey to the park and we just sat and we like, what I think what really makes me emotional is I can remember telling Joey, like, you know what, they're just stressed out and they'll get better. And like, I did that with so many, so many people because I want to believe that, you know what I mean? Like, it'll get better. And I remember saying stuff like that even with Eamon with his grandparents and stuff, even after what they did. And like, I feel bad. Like, I feel like that was like telling my kids something that might not have been true. Like, I'm proud of myself for being kind and stuff, but it's like, look at this stuff. And then when I finally go, you know what? We're not doing this anymore. We're not. And I tell the truth, and then it's like, big blow up. But you know what? That was another one too. This is where the title of the video comes in. It's 13 and a 19 day. It's the death card in tarot and the sun card in tarot. So it's like phoenix moments where the ego, you like have this burn up of the ego, and then as that melts away, you get clarity, and that does happen a lot. And within those are 4 and 10. So Emperor, Wheel of Fortune, and then again the Fool and the Magician also. A lot of numerology in there. I got into looking at that a while back when I decided to double down on my astrology and tarot business and working on this channel. I'm like amazed, it's like going on 2 years now. But there's a lot of those moments, like going through different information, and like I feel like that's an energy that a lot of people are in, and this is a lot of energy for like alchemy stuff too. We're entering into Aries season, and it's like when they say, a lot of people go around like, I didn't have a choice, some my mom said. And like, the truth is, you do always have a choice. You don't always have a choice necessarily in like 3D circumstances, but you always have a choice in how you think about something. So like, there are lots of times when it's like you might need to move. You might need to give up on an old plan. You might need to let a relationship go. You might need to hold boundaries with somebody you love. You might need to, do different things like that. And where it starts is recognizing that you always have a choice in how you think about something. I was talking to a friend the other day too that like she was helping me stay with me, so to speak, and helping me be more organized. That's like one of the things that I've been wanting to shore up for a while, and so I'm grateful for the opportunity to do it now in such important moments. But it's like you got to remember, like, you're doing this not because you have to, because you want to. And that's a key manifesting thing. Like, I could look at this court stuff and be like, I could be like everybody else and be like, I have to win, I have to go deep, I have to do this, I have to hit hard. But one, that's not me, and two, what is that manifesting? Like, is that about Joey? No. Like, that's why I didn't want to do that in the first place. That was about pirate games and drama. Like, I wanted to try to do what was best for my kids in each different situation, and none of them were really great scenarios. So it was like all I have is the choice in how I want to think about it. And like with this court stuff, like my friend reminded me, she's like, you know what? I've seen you do so many things for your kids, and you wanted to do it, and many of them were hard things, and you wanted to do it. And she was like, think of this that way, like change your focus on it. Like I wasn't ever in a hit hard thing. It's just more like, how do I help Joey? How do I keep him safe? What all do I need to do? But that, even that is like it's a space of desperation, and desperation energy is never really helpful in any situation, you know. And it, as humans, you know, like, you know, we're kind of a combination of predator and prey. So like we have those fight or flight instincts, and it's just getting to that place to where you can recognize, like, you could do anything you want. Like, okay, for example, like this court stuff, I know a lot of people that would just not do it. They just give up, be, oh, it's too hard, or I'll have to face my own shadows, or what if I lose and then have to do more, and like they would just give up. Or you know, like let's say like we get in there and like we both have some stuff to work on. Like a lot of people would give up at that point, or they wouldn't even get to this point. I'm doing it because I want my Joey, you know? I want to. I want to be able to do all his mom stuff, you know? And dad stuff, because that's what it was before. And that was hard. And I used to be in a space of like victim consciousness about it. That's where whenever I'd talk to anyone about it, I'd try to go and be like, how can I get help talking to my kid's dad about getting him to do more? And they'd be like, well, you can't, he's just broken and everyone else is just broken, you just got to do more, and it's hard, and you should just recognize that you're doing good, but it's hard, it'll always be hard. And I'm like, I fell into that, you know what I mean? Like, how do you not when everyone around you is speaking that way, you know? It's like the thing they say about, and they say, if like for teachers, if you have a student that everyone says is very gifted, it really doesn't matter whether they started with genius or not, they will get there. Whereas if you have another kid and you tell them that they are just a troublemaker and they are bad, they will take on that identity. If enough people say it, or one person says it enough times, they become that person, you know? And you know, it's funny. I can remember several times even that it was like I spent so much time over the past 10 years, like trying to work on myself, not trying, doing, working on myself, getting into spaces of gratitude, working on body, mind, and spirituality, working on being a better parent, working on being a better partner. Like I put in a ton of work. And when it got to the point of separation, like that was already super hard, you know. And I was wrapped up in being codependent with him too, so it wasn't just super hard on my heart. Like there was a certain amount of, like, when you're enmeshed with somebody, like they feel like a part of you, you associate them as a part of your identity, and part of that, like, never fully goes away, but like when you face it and you're conscious of it and you keep working on healthy boundaries and healthy identity stuff, like it's not the same. Like it's one thing to identify with someone that was a large part of your life and or is, or versus like feeling like you are a part of them and they are a part of you, which is something a lot of twin flames have to work on and look at too, because like that's, I think that's a lot of why that stuff goes in that direction. But like I can remember so many different times that I would recognize that what people were telling me about other people was what they were telling me about themselves. You know, like if they're saying the whole world is broken, it's more often that they feel broken. And I wasted, or not wasted, let me correct that. I poorly invested a lot of my time into trying to be there for them, and trying, and it wasn't even all like, at the time it felt altruistic, but it often does when you're still in codependent energy. It always feels altruistic. But I would recognize that it's like I'm trying to do with them what I was doing with Rudy and what I'd been doing with my family, and trying to rescue them. I'd always say, like, yes, anytime, contact me anytime, ask me for readings anytime, ask me for astrology analysis anytime, talk to me about your stuff anytime, because it felt like I had so much that I needed to share, and that I always wanted like upward momentum and progress. And it would always turn into these other conversations about like how you can interfere with different things, and how the other people are definitely they're worse than even you think, and like, I mean, it got scary, and but then I'd realize at certain points, especially when they'd be like disrespectful with me too, and I'm like, that saying, like, if people are willing to talk to you in like negative lights about other people, it's very likely that they're having those same conversations with those other people about you. And then just the victim consciousness, like, yeah, there are times in life when we do get victimized, definitely. But to stay in that place of like, I can never change or heal or grow or be different because I was victimized, like, it's not even so much a thing about is it true or not true. It's about, is it healthy to hold that mindset? Does it help you? Do you feel fulfilled with it? Does it help you become a productive member of society? Does it help you feel better about your life? Does it help you be a better parent? You know what I mean? And the first few conversations were with people that I wanted to try to work things out with, and I was like, stop telling me things are hard. Like, I get it, it's a commonly used word, but this is the path that I am on. I'm going this way. So my boundary is I'm going to connect with people that I know will not look at everything in life as a hard thing, or a victim thing, or a black and white, like, hero villain thing. And then, of course, most of society fell into that, between like mask and vax and government this and demo publican, and just like, just round and round. Like, the whole world fell into that, like, hero, victim, villain cycle. See, even the rooster knows it's true, right? And I was just like, you know what? I'd rather walk the plank. You know what I mean? I'd rather just dive off of it, be in with the mermaids, like, take my kids with me and go do that. Oh, it's so nice to be up with the sun, isn't it? Anyways, it was, what is it? Hard earned, long won? No, I don't think that's the way the proverb goes. But I did my best. I did my best along each step of the way, and I pushed myself to do even better than my last best each time. Like, I've always liked those quotes that it's like, I'm not in competition with anyone else. I'm in competition with myself, just to be better than who I was yesterday. And not in an unhealthy way, not like who I was yesterday was this horrible, horrible version of me, simply because I want upward momentum. I don't want to be in the space that I left. I don't want to be in this, I don't want to raise my kids the way my parents raised me, or the way that their dad's parents raised him, and so on and so forth. I want new cycles. I want harmony and goodness and balanced health. Like, I'm not one of those, like, you should only ever eat granola and drink water. No, have a brownie, have a donut, have some pizza, but have it in balance, like, enjoy the delights of life and be good to your body. Have a shadow side and ego, but also please put more time into your light. And the same thing with, like, there's a certain amount that you should forgive and think the best and give, second and third and fourth chances. And there are other times when you don't, when you say enough. It's enough is enough, but you also don't get bitter. You don't hold grudges about things. Like, if nothing else, forgiveness is for you, so that you don't carry that stuff on, so you don't become the hurt person hurting other people. And it's funny to circle back. It feels like the 13 and 19, right? Which is those phoenix moments and the clarity. And a lot of this feels like it's wrapped in with Jupiter in Pisces. I was learning a bit more about that. I know a fair amount, but I like hearing what other people's interpretations are, and it's very much an expansion on spirituality because Pisces is the 12th house. It's very much I like to think of it as the actually, so if you have an actual house, I like to think of it as the yard. It took me a long time to figure out where Pisces would be because I have like Sag and Aquarius and kind of more spiritual places in the house, like the meditation room or like the temple library kind of thing. But I put Pisces out, like out in the yard, like a lush yard. Like there's big bushes and places to play and hide and have shade and have sun and like it's really nice. But I put it there because it's imagination. It's that creation space. It's that space where magic happens, you know? And think about that. Like with Jupiter in there, like Jupiter is all about expansion. It's actually Sagittarius energy too, which is like they say Sagittarius goes from, and I have a Sag rising, so this one, so it goes from like the inner exploration to the outer exploration, and it's all about like going to new distant places and being aware of both, you know, both how you are inside and outside. So think about that, like Jupiter in Pisces, like expanding on that imagination, that wonder, that spirituality, that it's funny. What just popped into my head is 12th house Pisces is also about like revealing secrets, revealing hidden enemies, and like things of that nature. So it's also an expansion on that too. But you know, that Sagittarian Jupiter energy is very much that clarity too. And although Leo is typically associated with the Sun card, you could look at it as kind of a Sagittarius card too, because it's one of the later cards in the major arcana, so you could consider it in a way like a more mature part of our hero's journey because it's based on the hero's journey. And like Sagittarius is that, you know, it's the most mature fire sign in there, so it's definitely that like clarity, that point to where it's like you spend half of your life wanting to grow up to be like the adults, and then you get to that point in your adult life where you're like, none of the adults in my life had any idea what they were doing really, and a lot of things that they didn't do weren't correct, and they've all got this idea of like what adult means, but it's really just toxic. And like to really be a healthy adult, you need to be in touch with your inner child, which is part of what the 19th card, the sun card, is about. It's why they have a child on a white horse on there. And I learned recently too, and not, it's funny, not at the horse place, but it reminds me of the horse place, but that white horses can often symbolize like, I mean, sometimes it's purity too. It's like Lady Godiva sort of thing too. But it's like that space to watch your emotions to make sure that you're in balance with them. And I think that that's a really important thing too. Like when you're going through like shedding layers of ego and you're facing whatever thing it is for you, like for me it's court and it's my son's safety and things like that, and it's also partially his dad, my DM's safety too. But I can't do like this is just like in the past, like I can't save you because you are an adult. You have to do your own things, and like it's not healthy. And even if I wanted to, the whole world looks at that as wrong. But I can save our son. I do have place for him. I do have space for him. I have lots of time for him, like, you know. But what I mean to say is, like, your thing might be something else. Your thing might be your family stuff. Your thing might be work related things. It might be maybe you're just starting your journey and you've just arrived at this channel and you're like, whoa, this is a whole new world. Whatever it is, like, remember that when you are faced with challenges that definitely create a heavier energy about things, like you always have the choice in how you think about it. You know, are you doing it because you need to or because you want to? Are you doing it because it feels like if you don't, like some uncountable number of people will like um, shame you, or you'll feel shameful? Are you doing it because it fills you with passion and love and joy? And is it a like, oh, you made me do that, or you know what, I get to do that? I mean, shoot, there were some things we are talking about with my oldest son about like, you know, there are some certain things that we're going to have to do that I know are, you know, the court's going to look at and look for it, and that's fine. I don't mind doing it, but it does change a little bit of our trajectory. It doesn't change the whole thing. It's like a detour. But like, you know, he was very committed to wanting to do what he wanted to do, and I get it. And there's some detours on it. I was like, hey, you know what? Look at how many times, just going through homelessness, going through everything that we've been through the last couple of years, that spirit has been like, okay, that thing that you want, that goal that you have, it is up ahead, it is up here, but you're going to go this way first. You're going to go over here because, and usually there's something to learn, or there's someone to meet, or there's a new skill to learn how to have. And when we get that stuff done, then suddenly there's more opportunities, there's more housing opportunities, there's more work opportunities, there's more learning opportunities, things like that. So, like, when you find yourself in a heavier space or in like a jello mode space where it feels like just everything shifting or it feels like contractions of energy, like, challenge yourself to go to that place where you're like, what am I grateful for in this moment? What am I grateful for learning about each thing? Even if this isn't something I would have picked off of a menu and been like, yeah, I really want this experience. How is it related to experiences you have wanted to call in? How is it related to things that you might do in the future? I wrote something the other day about thinking about, like going through the response packets and the court things like that. I've had a fair amount of anxiety about doing like tax stuff. It was something that my DM and I always got each other through. And then with everything else going on, it's been like that has to come first, that has to come first, that has to come first. But after doing, the paperwork there and then doing like putting together a kind of a, what do you call it? An amalgamation of my resumes into one so that I could do the job search way back in, December and January. Like, that has helped me get through some of that anxiety. And I'm like, hey, I didn't even think of it that way. Like, that wasn't the thing that I was looking to do in any of this, but I'm like, this will be helpful. And that will help me get through some of the other stuff, like getting, refund back from AAA and different things like that. That'll be helpful. No matter what outcome of court happens, that will be helpful overall for me as a parent and a person. So do that. Do that when you find yourself in a heavy space or an anxious space, or if you find yourself falling into desperation. Like, what's good about this? What's good about that? There's always something there. You always have the choice. You can always look for it. And it doesn't matter how many times you might fall back into old cycles of heavier emotions, or like, society saying this is hard, or here's a blockage, or here's an obstacle, or this thing. You can still always choose to have a positive mindset about it, and I suggest that you do. All right, y'all. I'm going to end this video here. Thanks for watching.